The state of the MMO genre leaves a lot to be desired. The Riot MMO was confirmed to be undergoing a complete overhaul, with the devs stating that they're going to go radio silent for the next several years. ArcheAge 2 was delayed into 2025 or beyond. Ashes of Creation is still alpha testing. Blue Protocol and Throne and Liberty have been out for months in their own respective countries with no release in sight for global. What do we have to look forward to right now? MMORPGs that already exist. And while you could always just resub to WoW or Final Fantasy XIV, replay the game for the umpteenth time, many of you are as big a fan of anime games as I am, which is why you're looking for an anime MMO to jump into. Today, we're going to discuss the only anime MMOs worth playing in 2024, because the last time I did a video like this was way back in 2021, and the MMO genre, more specifically the anime MMO landscape, has changed quite significantly since. Now, while I have your attention, and since we're talking about anime MMOs, let me introduce you to today's sponsor, one of the biggest MMOs on mobile, Dofus Touch. Dofus Touch is completely relaunching on April 3rd with a new English server, new early game experience. This is the perfect time to try the game out. If you're interested, I urge you to click the link in the description and the pinned comment below, or click the QR code over there to go ahead and pre-register for the game. Dofus Touch features 15 original characters, has 10,000 maps to explore, a plethora of unique formidable monsters to engage, over 70 dungeons to plunder. It's an MMO, so you'll encounter other players, join guilds, group up, and participate in some incredibly fun turn-based tactical combat, utilizing combos and devastating elemental abilities. This game is completely free to play, and with this relaunch is more accessible than ever. This is one of the ultimate MMORPG experiences on mobile devices, and as a fan of the Dofus and Wakfu universe, I cannot stress enough how excited I am to be able to talk about all of this with you. You do not want to miss out on this. Pre-register and get ready to play Dofus Touch by clicking that link below. Pre-registration ends on March 29th, so it's imperative you do this while you can. You also get a free skin if you do this before April 10th. I'm gonna start this off with Dungeon Fighter Online because it's one of the anime MMOs that I've probably played the most. It's a hub MMO, one of the few of its kind, but that in no way trivializes the multiplayer aspect of the game. It's very focused around multiplayer content with dozens of classes, each with their own respective sub-specializations, allowing for extensive degrees of freedom. There are a plethora of different diverse regions and hubs to navigate, housing a surplus of different NPCs, many of which take part in the story surrounding the region you're currently in. The combat is fast, action-oriented. The gameplay is horizontal side-scroller. Ultimately, I chose to begin this list with one of the best. While I chose to begin with one of the best, I wanted to follow it up with one of the most original, one of the most unique, Mabinogi. This is a slow, open-world MMO with segregated zones, but each and every zone is packed with monsters, content, and filled with personality. This is one of the few MMOs I've played for more than a few hundred hours over the course of my life. Classes are very basic, but where Mabinogi stands out is in its freedom to play how you want, grind dungeons, get a part-time job, slowly level and rebirth, resetting your level and your appearance. Combat requires you click through monsters with a hybrid kind of tab target, but it's one of the MMOs that every player should at least play once. Many players consider Tree of Savior to be the spiritual successor to Ragnarok Online, and it definitely feels like it at times. It has the same top-down isometric perspective Ragnarok was known for, features a segregated world with beautiful environments to explore. Unlike most MMOs that feature a single class system, Tree of Savior allows players to instead select from one of several base classes and, much like Dungeon Fighter Online, continue to evolve into newer, more powerful specializations as you level. Tree of Savior is one of the few MMOs available that genuinely look like they were hand-painted, offering players one of the most unique visual experiences that they will get in the genre. Combat is action-based, resembling other games like Path of Exile or Lost Ark, but it still has its own system. FlyFF, and more recently FlyFF Universe, is an anime MMO that I grew up with. I've recanted on numerous occasions what it was like when I first gained the ability to soar through the skies at 2 miles per hour on my little broomstick. Since playing as a teen, the game has undergone a number of changes, but the core of the game remains intact. This is an MMO about exploration and has a very heavy focus on grinding. This is not a game for the faint of heart or those that are turned away from grinding the same monsters for hours on end. FlyFF is a tab target MMO with base classes that provide you the ability to ascend into a more powerful class after hitting a certain level. It features very large segregated zones that are traversable via both land and sky. This is a nostalgia hit if I've ever had one, and it was honestly a ton of fun to replay through it again more recently, just a few months ago. Temtem is one of like 3 MMOs that are inspired by Pokemon and have creature creation, leveling, and evolution as a core part of their gameplay. And admittedly, I cannot summarize Temtem any better than by saying it's Pokemon done by a studio that actually cares about replicating the formula and making it even more fun than the original. It features an enormous open world to explore, with archipelagos taking the form of unique regions, each with their own dojo leaders, diverse selection of native Temtem, trainers to engage in battle. The entire game is playable with other players, and you'll see many of them out while questing. You can capture hundreds of Temtem, each with their own stats, strengths, weaknesses, and abilities. This is what a Pokemon MMO should be if the devs actually cared about what their players wanted. It is not as good as Palworld, granted, but this is a great alternative if you're looking for a free MMO. Combat is turn-based, with players controlling 2 Temtem or 1 Temtem each if you're playing with another player. MapleStory is an interesting MMO. It's not hub-based, as you can see dozens of other players occupying every facet of the world concurrently. You can also party with lots of players for group content, for dungeons, for raids, boss fights, but the world is made up of smaller segregated zones accessible both horizontally but also vertically, allowing you to climb vines, trees, ropes, scale mountains, cliffs. It's a fascinating way of handling a game that no other MMOs really managed to replicate to the same degree of success. MapleStory is one of the few MMOs that don't actually take themselves seriously, having one of the most satirical storylines, complete with side content and dungeons that you'll find online, giving you entertainment for hundreds of hours. Combat is action-oriented and is honestly some of the fastest, flashiest that you'll find. Tower Fantasy is the only technically cross-platform developed MMO gacha in this list. It's a beautiful game with a surplus of incredible characters to recruit and use as weapons. As this is a gacha game as well, there's a degree of RNG involved in obtaining the different weapons, which function as classes, making it very predatory and at times very whale-heavy and pay-to-win, but it makes up for it with its action combat, stunning world that you have complete freedom to explore, and regular content cadence. I know, sticks. That really isn't a whole lot of games, but I've played everything recently: Soul Worker, Closers, PSO2, and New Genesis, with the exception of Final Fantasy XIV, which I don't really classify as an anime MMO. There really is nothing else to add to this list. There genuinely isn't anything that I would recommend you play other than these games if you're interested in an anime MMO in 2024. But if there is nothing in this list of any interest to you, absolutely no problem. I got you covered for 2 different videos on screen right now. Might be more up your alley.